and welcome back. So we're doing something slightly different today. The Megabase build so far has been bot-based sites where solids come in on trains, they go through machines and come out the other side as solids. We're now starting to look at the refinery. So this is dominated by processes where liquids come in, they go through refineries or chemical plants and come out the other side as liquids. Now, I have never been able to understand the liquids processes in Factorio, and the only way that I can work out what's going on is to build things and see if they run. The fluid mechanics is a complete mystery to me. So that's what we're going to do today. We'll start with refining and get through as many things as we can in half an hour. And then we'll do it again and again and again until we've done enough episodes to get through all of the processes. What we'll do to start with is set out what all the processes are. Okay, so we start off with a refinery. Refineries take in water and petroleum and produce three things. The gas, which is the stuff you want. Light oil, which is useful for making rocket fuel. Heavy oil, which is useful for making lube. The excess heavy oil gets cracked into light oil. The excess light oil gets cracked into petroleum. And the petroleum goes off and primarily becomes plastic. Okay, there's a few other things you need. Sulfuric acid and a few, well, other stuff, but that's basically it. Okay, so to process the heavy oil into lube, you need this process. Then the heavy, let's move that up one. There, so that's lube. Okay, then the heavy into light is that one. Then we have light into solid fuel. The reason you do this is 10 units of light become some solid fuel. 10 units of light become some solid fuel, whereas 20 units of petroleum or heavy become solid fuel. So it's, even with productivity bonuses and things, it's cheaper to go with the light to solid. Okay, then the excess light will be cracked into petroleum. Here we are. So this then goes off to make your electric engines. This goes off to make this then feeds back into there. Then this goes off to make let's put down an assemblant just for completeness. Right. This then goes on to make rocket fuel. The rest of that gets cracked into petroleum, and it's the petroleum we want. So then the petroleum is piped off to the site that makes plastic, which we built last episode. It's piped off to make sulfuric acid. Let's put each of those down just so that we've got them for completeness. Okay. We need a chem lab for plastic. Right, then we have sulfuric acid and batteries. Okay. But these take essentially nothing. So, right, that goes to sulfuric acid, wherever that is. Have I lost it? There it is. Okay. Then the sulfuric acid goes on to batteries. So that's a schematic of what we eventually need to build. Now, let's start deleting things. Batteries requires fluids and plates. So it's not a fluid to fluid transform. The output isn't a fluid. Okay, this is a fluid to fluid. It takes in water and sulfur. So it's got a fluid in and a fluid out. But we're not going to look at that today because it's got a solid involved. This has a solid product. We're not going to look at that. Okay, we've done plastic already. This here, because of prod mods, there's an expansion in the amount of material from this step to this step. So really you want to do these at the same site. So I think the solution is to train in light oil to a rocket fuel making site and do it that way. Now, I did work out the ratios for this with prod mods. The ratios are crazy. So it's 17.875 to 10. So you get 17.875 rocket fuel out for every 10 solid fuel, which if you divide it all through to get your simplest form of that fraction, that is 143/80. That's just crazy. So simplify that down, round it round a bit, it's about 7 to 4. So 4 solid machines to about 7 rocket machines. I know these don't have speed mods, but the ratios are about right. So we are very slightly in credit for solid fuel with this ratio. So if you had 4 of these with 7 of these, you can see how that would make a line of 11 machines. 11 machines in a row is about 1 row of drone-based construction. So you can see how this would basically all work out. You could do 4 to 8 and then add in 1 extra machine here occasionally, serving up some solid fuel on the logistics network to make everything max out. There are various options, but basically this is going to be built on a single site at roughly this 4 to 7 ratio. So we can get rid of that. So what are we left with? We are left with the refining of the oil and then these 3 processes, making lube, cracking and cracking. And the question really to ask today is, how many of these machines can we put back to back with speed mods and productivity mods and retain full productivity, full throughput? The issue is you can only get so much stuff down a pipe, but I'm congenitally incapable of making that calculation. So the only way I can figure it out is to build it, look at the production stats, see if they match what max rate calculator says. Once it falls off in rate of production compared to max rate calculator, then the build gets trimmed back till they match again. That's the size. The other thing is these fluids are going to be coming on and off trains probably. So we will take the products of this. So we'll have a train bringing in oil, probably a train bringing in water actually. The petroleum gas will go directly into petroleum gas trains. Then the heavy and light oil, the heavy oil, we will load it directly onto trains to be taken off to the lube site. We may have a bypass to that with a circuit network that passes that straight through to cracking. But that would depend on whether an array of these machines feeds a standard sized array of these machines. If it doesn't, I'll put a train in to do the load balancing. Right, and then this obviously is going to bring in the light oil. We've got 2 sources of light oil from the refining and from the heavy oil. So again, it makes sense to have a train here. The output of this is more petroleum. So depending on how we build this, we might have, if you imagine a bunch of refineries going like that, and the stuff going out that way, then we may have a bunch of these doing that. I don't know, we'll see. But the important thing here is to get the individual build arrays done. Okay, So let's start with this. Let's clear all these blueprints. As you can see, I was having a bit of a play beforehand because this stuff really does scare me. Alright, so that's our single refinery. Put it down there. And I would like it to... Let's bring in the products below and put the inputs below, the products at the top, just because. Or should we do it? Let's do it the other way and we'll do it the same way for all the builds. Okay, so right, max rate on this, before we've had any beacons or prods or anything, we're bringing in 12 of pure oil and, 1200 oil, 600 water, so more oil than water. So I want the oil to be on the shortest possible pipe, the water can be on a longer pipe. There we are. Then the products. We're producing mostly petroleum. Then the next one is the light oil, and the distant third is the heavy oil. So, and then we'll think about what to do with that in a minute. Okay. Then the next thing is we need to beacon this up. Okay, and we want to get as many beacons around this baby as possible. Respecting the pipes. Okay. So because this is a bigger machine, you can fit more beacons around it. Okay, so let's take a blueprint of that. And that does tile. We're shiny. Okay. So the next thing is this needs to have prod mods. Okay. Now I've got a feeling there are no 2x2 spaces to put a. No, there aren't. So we can't get a substation in. So this is going to have to be powered up with small poles. Okay, that seems excessive to me. What if we move that one to there? Does that still work? Yeah, and this one to there. Okay. So this can be our refinery. Ah, we're missing something. Okay, still need to do something with this heavy oil. Right. So as I said, the heavy oil, there's almost none of it produced. So this is not going to be the pipe which causes us headaches. There we are. So drag that outside the beacons. It does mean that these things aren't going to tile very neatly, but there's probably ways to finagle that. Okay, so take a blueprint of this. And this is one refinery module. And the refinery is that. Didn't save the blueprint, made it, didn't save it. Okay, so this stacks. Now, the next thing we need to do is set up a harness for running this. And this is where the creative mode things come in. So let's drag that pipe out and drag that pipe out to max distance. Okay, we would be feeding this from a train. So we'd have a pump, then something a bit like this, then a pump. There may be an extra underground for the water one to get it lined up with its station. We're ignoring the placement of the stations for now. A single fluid wagon carriage has the same capacity as one of these water butts. one of these, what are they called? Storage tanks. So we really need 2 storage tanks to allow the train to be fully offloaded. And then we can have some kind of latch set on there so that it buffers between being, so there's always space here, basically. So the train can always empty. Or we could use the trains as the fluid buffer. That's fine as well. Let's do that. All right. As I say, we're not really designing the train side of it today. But we do need to add in stubs for this stuff. Otherwise, when we come to run it in the real world, there'll be something which has a rate limiting step which wasn't part of the harness, and then it won't work. Okay, so there would be a pump emptying these into trains. We have 3 trains, so the petroleum would take precedent. That would be the closest one. Then this would be the next closest one, and this would be the next closest one. So that, again, there'd be some extra undergrounds involved here. But I think single underground pipes aren't going to be the killer. If they are, I'll cry. I promise. All right, so the next thing is to add in our creative fluid sources. So this is our water line. Set that to water. This is our raw crude line. Okay. Now, we have to power these pumps up. They have to have power to work. There we are. And then these are starting to fill up at a reasonable speed. To make sure they are emptied so the thing doesn't back up, we put in the creative mode fluid voiders. Okay, so that's working. That is a single refinery running with at crafting speed at 8.55 plus 755%, 19 effect sources. So that's running about as fast as you can hope for one of these things to run. Cool. So, max rate calculator says this should consume 10k of crude a minute, about 5k of water a minute. It should produce 1.3k of heavy, 6k of light, and 7.3k of petroleum. So if we go to production, fluids, set it to 1 minute, and what are the numbers? 10k of crude, 7.3 of petroleum, 6 of light, 1.3 of heavy. So that's exactly as we want it. Okay, we'll take off these 2. No, I managed to take off everything else, Dragon. Right, these are being magicked into existence by creative mode. The numbers we really want are the consumption of 10 and 5.1, which are exactly what max rate calculator suggests. Brilliant. So, what now? Well, we stamp down repeats, basically. And we keep doing it for quite a while. So what I'm looking for is some indication that these solid green lights aren't solid green. Okay, so that's 6 of them. Let's max rate calculator it. So this should be doing 61 in of crude, 44 of petroleum, 36 of light, 8 of heavy. You see why I said that the heavy really doesn't, we don't have to worry about it at all. Fluids, 1 minute. Okay, our 1 minute is still burning in, but This is the one we want to hit 44. If this hits 44, then our build is good. 1, 2, 3. 44. Great. So our build is good. So this, with 6 refineries, is running fine. So should we be reckless and add more? I think so. 2 more, so we're up to 8. 9, 10. Okay, calculate that. So this should be consuming, wow, over 100,000 of crude, and it should be producing 73 of petroleum. And it's going to take about a minute to burn in. It's not looking too bad. So it's around here somewhere that we're into our 1 minute. Around here. Okay, so this is maxing out at 93k consumed and 67k produced, not the 73. So, and you can see there's a red light here. So we're running out of input. Basically, we're running low on crude here. Can't get quite enough crude in. Okay, so we can trim this build back by 1. And let's just be neat and tidy, take out those pipes. Okay. Now all those green lights are solid. So this spits out 66, which is slightly below what our production was a minute ago, but all the machines are being used at full speed. Yeah, we're producing 66, absolutely bang on. We're consuming 92, give or take, which is, again, bang on. So this is one petroleum build. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 refineries with this many beacons. I can't see how to fit any more beacons. 9 refineries with this many beacons going through a pump, a storage, and a train. That works. Okay. And these are remaining empty, which is a good sign. It means that we can empty these into trains without the world falling on our head. All right, so this is producing 66k of fluid a minute. A train wagon, fluid wagon, has 75 in it. So that's less than 1 train a minute. Then the crude, 92, that's 1 and a bit trains a minute. So we have 1 and a bit trains a minute coming in to provide crude. We have half that coming in for the water. So we have maybe between 2 and 3 trains a minute dropping off water and crude. Then we have a train a minute, less than a train a minute, picking up the petroleum, another less than a train a minute picking up the light, and then a train every few minutes picking up heavy. So this is maybe 5 trains a minute. I don't know. I'm wondering if it should be on 2 lines. So if we have an outside world, imagine we had an outside world train line like this. Even better in a straight line. Let's make it a straight line. Okay, I'm wondering if we had an outside world train line, then we did refining, and then that went into a an internal train line that has no crosstalk between these. Then we could then run various of the other processes off here as in-outs. Except some of these require water. So okay, so they should probably be run in the same backbone. We want to be bringing the water in from the outside world. So we would bring water and crude. Then for the ones that require water, we'd bring the water in there. For the ones that require other items, we bring them in there and then dump things back. I think that's the way to do it. So water would come in there. The secondary item to be processed would go there, then that would come back out onto the backbone. So I think that's how we're going to arrange things. Great. Well, now that's done. It doesn't really affect our harness, but at least we've got a clearer idea of what's going on. Okay, so this is the first process. This is the refining. Let's take a blueprint of the whole of that. Yep. I'm going to delete that and place it back down. You'll see why in a second. Okay. Okay. Make sure everything is powered up. Right, then we've got a single power pole, which turns the thing on. And I can turn it off by deleting this power pole. Great. Okay. So that's our first process. That's that one. The next one is lube. So let's do essentially the same thing. So lubricant just requires heavy oil in and produces lube. So if we just add the pipes, this would need prod mods, and then we want to get as many beacons around it as possible. Okay. And then it needs some poles to power it up. I think we can just do diagonals. Yeah, diagonals cover it. Great. So for now, let's just whack in those. Max rate. So this produces 6.3K of lube for 4.9K of raw. And now with those extra beacons, 6.3 for 4.9. Okay. So let's do this. We don't need that blueprint. That's the full one. That's the single unit. Yeah, so I'm going to leave those. All right. So this is our unit. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't tile. It looks like it would tile if we moved these out. And that overlaps by 2, so we can move it out. 1, 2. So we still have full 12 beacon coverage. Let's take that. And we're going to change the icon to fluid. Right, it takes in heavy oil, produces lube. And it tiles. Awesome. Okay, so take those out. Now we can do the same thing setting up the inputs and outputs. And we may be too close to the power poles, we will see in a minute. We have an incoming of heavy and an outgoing of lube. Bang, 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 bang. We need to void the output. We need to magic into existence the input. Heavy. Okay, that power pole covers all of that. That links up there, so then we can drop down. Okay, so that should be 9.8 versus 12.7. Production. Okay, something doesn't seem quite right yet. Maybe it's got to burn in. Right, I don't want that on the chart. Yeah, it hasn't burnt in. Okay, this looks fine, doesn't it? That's going to pick up to 12. So let's add some more units. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it should be doing 38k production. 38k, there we are. Absolutely bang on. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4 more, becoming a bit blasé. Okay, this should be producing 63. Right, the 5 seconds is on 63. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 more. Okay, this is starting to be a bit intimidatingly big. Okay, this should be producing 89. Fluids. 5 seconds, 89. 85, 84. So that is not 89. Okay. Look at this. This end machine is backing up, so it can't get the liquids out of this pipe. Now, we could finagle it with pumps and things, but frankly, I don't care enough. I'm happy to just have an extra one of these, an extra strip of builds, so we will relieve this build of that final unit. Okay. This should be producing 83. We are on 83. Let's check it does actually even out. Okay, so we're on 84 with the extra machine. We're only getting 1k for the extra machine. it wasn't a material benefit, this is fine. This is our lube build. So depending upon how this works, you can imagine there being a train station here for heavy and one here for lube, or it might be heavy here, lube here, and it would be in and out. It would very much depend upon basically how our trains are all linked together. I want to end up with lines where there's as little contention as possible for the trains on those lines. So if it is possible, I will set up a heavy only set of train lines. I don't know if it will be possible. Okay. So the next column we need to make, let's run up here. We've done lube, now we need to do heavy to light cracking. All right, so let's travel down. So this is going to be heavy to light. This has two inputs, water and heavy. Takes in 1K of heavy, puts out, and 750 of light, so of water, sorry. So again, it's going to be the heavy that has priority, has the shorter pipes. Okay, and then the output is the light oil. And let's start beaking this up. Okay, so that's a 12, we're looking at a 12 beacon build. So that's the first 8. Okay, that's interesting. So we have a solid edge there. That means this side is going to have to be the solid edge rather than the ragged edge. So there's no way to compress this build down. So it's going to be... Yeah, it's going to be a slightly longer build than this because these share this beacon. So although there's a gap, you're basically sharing a beacon, so you've got one gap but one less beacon. Beacons are 3 wide, so you're gaining 2 tiles compared to this build. Okay, but that's just the way it is. So can we do corners again? Yep, that's corners. Or there's room in here for a substation. Let's go with the substation, because substations are cool. Okay. Okay, then this is a single input, single output type situation. Oh no, it's a 2 inputs, 1 output. Okay. So I'm thinking in the real world, the water would be on the external train line, on the external materials side of the train line, and the heavy oil would be coming in from here, from the normal materials. Anyway, we will figure that out. Okay, so the inputs need pumps, these things, more of these, and then the creative fluid source there and there. This is water, this is heavy. Okay, then it's going to need powering up, which requires more than 1 pole. Okay, and it can't link through, annoyingly. Okay. Hope that's the right way around for that. Okay, so that's the power hooked up. So does this work? No, because that's around the wrong way. And that's around the wrong way. Okay, so this should be doing 1000 in. Oh, that was. Let's try again. Sorry. 7000 in, 5.2 out. Right, we don't want to show. Our loop is still being made. That's going to screw up our numbers. Right, let's look again. Okay, so this is making 5-ish. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, let's take a blueprint of this and slap it down. Now, this looks like too many substations to me. So let's put that down. Right, so that reaches okay, so if I put this down and overlap, then that's fine. So this is heavy to light cracking. Experience says we can put a few of these down before needing to measure anything. Okay, so we're expecting 57k out and 77k in. 57, 77, that's near enough for me. Expecting this to get somewhere close to a limit soon. Okay, so this is 91 in, 68 out. $89, 66, 67. Let's run this for the full minute. I'm wondering if this is 1 unit too far. Basically, if this can't hit the numbers, I'm going to trim it back until the build matches max rate. Right, so this is 67k, which is 1k down, 66k, 2k down, and it's definitely consuming 88, 89 rather than 91. So this is, and there's a red light flashing there. Okay, so it's not quite able to consume. So I'm going to trim this back by a single build. So I think this whole thing won't quite make as much as we would hope. So let's put that. Yeah. Don't sweat the small stuff. Okay, 63. So we are taking a hit on throughput by not having that machine. But the build is hitting, yeah, the build is doing what it's meant to do. So I'd rather go for this, which is the right size. Right, let's do the next one. Let's first of all, let's just do the next one. Right, so the next one is essentially the same. Let's start off with a blueprint of everything except the let's take everything and then we'll take out the creative mode stuff. Okay, so I don't want the creative water or the creative heavy. Okay, let's put this down. I also don't want the wiring, cross wiring. Okay, I have no idea if I've kept up with a half-hour episode, I'm afraid. I lost track somewhere. Right, and this we want to be making light oil. So then this we want to be... Oh, hang on. These have no productivity modules. Somebody was probably screaming at me for that. Okay. That's quite important. Now, it was limited on input. I don't know if it still will be. Right. Let's double check out. Yeah, I definitely have prod mods in the lube, so it was my silliness here. Okay. So this was a 63 output build. Let's try again. This is now a 76 build. 78 in. Okay. Fluids. 76. 78. Awesome. Alright. So, that was a bad build because it didn't have the prod mods. Okay, let's pull that up. Right, that's better. Right, what happens if we put in another one? Okay, we've got some flashing reds. 2 or 3 of them, I'm not sure how many, so let's trim off that. Okay, no more flashing reds. So this is 83k. Fluids production says 81, 83. We're meant to be consuming 80, 82. I'm going to go with that. That's close enough to 83. Given there you are. It's just tinkering on 83. Yeah. So I'm going to call that build. All right. So that is heavy to light. Right, so now let's rip up this again. Okay. Power that off. We don't want heavy to light. We want light to petroleum. Right, and I've got no idea about these ratios. So we will suck it and see. Okay. So this should be producing 55, it's consuming 63. Given that everything else seems to max out at around the 80, I'm expecting we can grow this. Okay, so we don't want that in the production, we do want petroleum. Let's go to the 5-second stats. So 55 is what we're expecting to produce, that's what we are producing. Great. let's take that unit. That's one you can slap down with an overlap. Things are still okay. And one more. Things still seem okay. Man, this is a long build. Things still look alright. Let's... Oh, no. Okay, so let's max rate this. So this, yeah, is taking in 93, putting out 80. Okay, let's max rate it again, but we will not do the final two machines. Okay, so this would be 83.72, and our productivity, yeah, we're producing about 72. So I think if we trim off the last two builds, then everything will match up. Are the lights going away? Yes, the lights are going away. So let's max rate this again because I may have miscalculated. Yeah, we should be producing 72. And our production is 72. So this is our cracking build. And it is a cracking build. Right. So I think what we'll end up doing is having 8 fluid wagons, one after the other, running down the screen. Then there'll be offloading water into this build from this side. Then when we get to the other side, there'll be another 8 carriages which are putting in the light oil, and then 8 carriages to the right of that which are pulling out the petroleum. And we'll do everything we can with pumps so that there's as few pipes as possible, and hopefully that will keep these things running full speed. So the only thing left to do is check if these things actually line up with rails, because if they don't, we've got a bit of a problem. Okay, so these 4 beacon builds, they're all 4 beacons, so that we only need to do one of them. Okay. I know this is far too close for the real thing, but let's take a wagon. Okay, so this build is wider than one wagon. So I'm not really sure what to do about that. I think there may be some fan out on these to make them line up better. Yeah, so each wagon is 6 tiles long, and then there is a single tile between them, isn't there, for signals and electric poles. Let's get a signal down. Yeah. Where did that go? There. So we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 tiles separating carriages. We have 3, 6, 9, 12 here. So maybe the option is to have 2 of these wagons feeding one of these stacks. I think that might be how it's done. So 2 of these feeds one of these, and then we've just got a single tile to accumulate, which is well within what we can finagle by just placing pumps slightly differently, because you can place the pump pretty much anywhere along here. You've got 6 places where you can put the pump and it still connect. So I think 2 fluid wagons into 1 stack, there'll be room for the pumps and everything should work out. Okay, now that's for these arrays. This is the bigger one. All right, so let's start off with a signal. Is that right? Let's put down the fluid wagons just to check. Oh, there we are. So I've got a feeling that this exactly lines up, 2 fluid wagons, or at least it's not going to be a problem. So what we're looking at is 2 fluid wagons to 1 of these stacks. We could even be really clever and have fluid wagons which alternate between water and petroleum. I don't see why not. And then you could bring in the 2 inputs on the 1 train. For the single input ones, you're going to have to double up the wagons into the stacks. Yeah, so basically I think that all works. So next episode, what we're going to do is probably go back to the real world. We will start making rail stops for these things. And we will see how far we can get with that before I go completely potty. All right, well, thanks very much for watching. Sorry this ran on longer than I expected, but there's quite a lot to do here. But we do have working builds now for all the major volume fluid processes. And that's enough to get us to the point of making circuits in volume in our world, which then means we can start making prod mods in big volumes, and everything should speed up from there. All right, well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Like, subscribe, message me, all that good stuff, and I'll be back again soon. All right, bye-bye.